Volantis, Friar, Hunters HQ? Come on, Weskel. You must have some sway with your brother, right? It shouldn't take much to convince him to make me a knight. I'm a pretty good shot and I can be of service, honest. Weskel Staples didn't grace his fellow hunter with a direct answer. He merely gave Widow a second-long glance before depositing his video recorder on the counter. Widow, however, took that as an invitation to get closer, also putting his recorder next to his. So what do you say? My sister is looking for a boyfriend. Want to be the lucky guy to get with her? Bet you'd get along great. Favor for a favor, see? Widow offered with a wide, shameless smirk. Piss off, Widow, said a second voice cutting through the background noise caused by the ever-present chatter and news feed that never left the Hunters HQ lobby. Turning his head, Widow grimaced when he saw one of the elite hunters coming to a halt right next to Weskel's left side. You've been bothering him for nearly 2 weeks. He's not interested in convincing his lord to elevate your worthless ass. Try again, and I'll talk to the head hunter about demoting you to trainee scout, got it? All right, fine, Widow replied, glaring at the elite hunter. Less competition, eh? Think about it, Weskel. With that, Widow turned and left, grumbling and scowling in irritation. Weskel exhaled through his nostrils before turning to the elite hunter. Thank you, Calgast. The slightly larger, heavily scarred man smiled as he placed a hand on Weskel's shoulder. You're a good boy and one of the greatest hunters we've seen in years. Such a shame you couldn't get your 20th feather. Calgast paused for a moment, then leaned closer. You haven't been threatened yet, have you? Just twice before my mission started, Weskel replied. Nothing I couldn't handle if it were serious. You're going to try again to get your last feather next month? Calgast asked as the receptionist took the recorders away. Weskel nodded, then frowned slightly. If the headhunter says I can. I ditched the test, remember? Calgast chuckled. Do you think the headhunter is going to say no to you now? You're practically a blue blood yourself, Weskel. Ain't no way he's going to risk angering your lord brother. I'm actually surprised he hasn't simply granted you the feather and made you an elite, he shrugged. As if that matters. Every damn hunter worth its rifle knows you're an elite in all but name. I'm not a noble, Weskel replied, fully turning to face the veteran hunter. My brother is. I'm just a glorified servant, if that. True, but that doesn't mean you don't have a pinch of that power your brother has. Sure as a Lakoa burying into a new nest don't want to make Lord Wyatt angry for whatever reason. Better to stay on his good side than yours, eh? Calgast offered. Weskel sighed. So you're helping me to cover your ass? Partially, Calgast replied with a shrug. You're important now, Weskel. I don't want anything from you or your brother. Messing with blue blood affairs as a commoner is a bad idea if you want to keep breathing. I like breathing. Numbskulls like Widow and others are too stupid to realize they are messing with things they shouldn't. They just want an easy way to become nobles themselves. Idiots. All of them. And you don't? Weskel asked, raising an eyebrow. I'd love to, but I'm not smart enough to deal with the crap that comes along with being a blue blood. Plus, I have a family to take care of. His smile dropped, his expression turning serious. Though have to know, Weskel, don't you think it would be best if you quit? Wyatt may be a noble now, but that doesn't mean my future is secured or anything like that. We're in the middle of a succession war that could very well devolve into a civil war. I'm not a soldier, nor do I really want to be one, but I like my job. As long as I can be a Clixel hunter, I'll be one. He paused for a moment to offer a smile. My big brother has received something many would kill for, and his life has turned upside down. I always thought that we commoners were meant to live simple, unachieving lives at the service of our noble betters. Now, who knows what tomorrow holds for him or us anymore? Calgast returned the smile, gently smacking Weskel's shoulder twice. If that's how you feel about it, then who am I to argue? Just stay safe, okay? There are those here who got your back, Weskel. And if you need to punch some sense into Widow or some other rat like him, throw the punch. Will do, Calgast. Give your kids my regards and tell Wankta I said hi, Weskel offered with a nod. After the short friendly exchange with the veteran hunter, Weskel moved to the nearest balance station. There he inserted his personal data chit. His lips curled into a soft smile when he saw that the payment for his latest hunt had already been cleared and added to his account. He wasn't naive enough to believe it was a happy coincidence. He was being treated with obvious preference, but it was the sort he didn't object to. After he packed his rifle and adjusted his hat, he made to leave the building, glad that he didn't have any long-term missions for the next few days. As he walked, he ignored the eyes set upon him by fellow hunters, trainees, assistants, clerks, and even the maintenance staff members. It was no secret why they stared at him so intently. It wasn't every day that a local commoner was elevated to nobility through actions, kissing ass, or buying a knighthood title. But when it happened, whoever achieved it was approached and swarmed by immediate locals trying to gain easy favor or titles of their own. His mother had always warned them about such ambitions. Bless her heart, she had been so right. After Wyatt sent the official paperwork that officially recognized their adoption into House Staples as, basically, honored servants, the news spread like wildfire. Day in and day out, they were being hounded by commoners and low-standing nobles alike. Being a baron wasn't that big of a deal. Sure, it was to a commoner, but in the noble rankings, that wasn't that great. His unique position directly under House Astor and serving the second princess, Clara Astor, personally was the real point of interest. In part, he could understand their insistence, but another part of him yearned for nothing more than for them to stop. Almost everyone at HQ has tried to approach me, asking me for favors or showing that sick, fake, smiling mask. Rats and scoundrels, all of them. At least now I can understand Mr. Warlow better, and why he also hates ass-kissing commoners, Weskel thought, as he continued on his hour-long walk back to his home. He could take one of the transit services if he were in a hurry, but he preferred to walk. Maybe it was due to his job as a hunter, but he'd never tired of walking and simply enjoying the small things in life. It took him half an hour to reach the small wood mill his brother used to work at, and, as luck would have it, a shift had come to an end as many workers left the building. He saw a few familiar faces among the crowd, the two oldest daughters of the Vernon family, one of their relatively close neighbors, the youngest son of the Felix, another of their neighbors, and finally, the only face he was actually glad to see. Slowing his pace, he waited until the black-haired woman noticed him and broke into a run to meet him. The woman stopped, hugging Weskel tightly for a moment before offering him a disarming, eager smile. "Weskel, I haven't seen you in a week. How did your hunt go?" Briefly returning the embrace, Weskel let go and resumed his walk with the attractive, soft, green-eyed woman, his closest friend, at his side. "It was easy, Whitmus. There were at least 3 dozen Clixal and 3 times as many chicks. We arrived just in time to save more than half a sheep herd and a Lakoa hive." "That's a relief. I hate those damn things, always destroying and eating everything they can find. And they are so damn stupid. How they haven't gotten extinct I will never understand," Whitmoose replied, sparing a moment to gently punch Weskel's upper arm, gaining a smile from her friend. "And how are you holding up being the center of attention?" Weskel's smile dropped, and he sighed tiredly. "It's been annoying. That's the most charitable thing I can say about it. Had I known being adopted into Wyatt's house would be this frustrating, I would have pushed more for him to reject us instead." Whitmoose grimaced. "That bad, eh? Can't say I envy your position, Wes. Can you go out for a drink or something?" "My tab. I got paid extra for a big shipment today." "I would say yes, but I think that if we go to Woko's or some other local bar, I'll only attract unwanted attention," the hazel-eyed man countered. Whitmoose chuckled. "I guess you're right. We can always share a drink in your home. Been a while since I last saw Wham and your parents." "Maybe," Weskel replied, glad to have Whitmoose with him. While he never had many friends, Whitmoose was now the only one he stuck to closely. Most of his so-called friends were quick to betray their friendship by asking him for favors first, and even had the audacity to use his brother's name to push others around, thinking his protection extended to them just by association with him. Worse were those who said they were personal friends of his brother when they had never met, not even once. It was infuriating. Better to cut ties with those parasites than to let them inch in closer. He had other friends, of course, like Calgast, but they were professionals, not intimate friends like Whitmoose. "How are you and Valeros doing?" he asked, and her mood instantly soured. "That bad, eh?" he said, echoing her words. "Oh, you won't believe what he did," Whitmoose began. Weskel shook his head, knowing it was going to be a long walk back home. Volantis Friar Social Skills Training and Teaching Campus. "Winona, dear, you shouldn't strain yourself so much. Here, why don't you sit down and enjoy a cup of tea? It's my granddaughter's recipe. Sweet and refreshing like mint," an older woman said with a warm, kind smile as she offered a thermos and an empty teacup. Winona Staples returned the smile with the practiced measure she'd mastered over the course of years working her profession. It was polite and disarming, gentle but not meek. She hoisted the container in her arms, pushing it up slightly. "It's quite light, Nalova. You don't have to worry about my back. Wyatt was kind enough to provide enough credits to pay for my medicine and treatments." She paused for a moment, her smile never faltering as she made a turn to continue her way. "I'd love to have a cup of tea, but my class is about to start. Maybe later? I'm sure it's quite a lovely concoction." Nalova retained her smile as she set the goods she had been offered down. "Oh, Wyatt. Excuse me, Lord Wyatt is such a good son, isn't he? Young men who keep their mothers in high regard and close to their hearts are such a rarity these days. You are one lucky woman. Such a good man must have many suitors knocking at his door, I'm sure. It must be so tiring. My granddaughter could ease his pains with her skills. Don't you think so, Winona?" Winona felt a tinge of annoyance spark within her, but she was able to keep it hidden before replying. "I'll be sure to mention him the next time he contacts us, Navola. I'll see you later." Without giving the old receptionist the time to worm her way into a conversation further, she left at a hurried pace. She could almost feel the dejected sense of defeat from the old woman, but she had been so insistent that it had become, quite frankly, annoying. Several of her colleagues had made passing comments and outright congratulated her on several occasions for her great achievement. It filled her heart with anger. Her achievement. Not her son's, hers. As if birthing her oldest son and raising him as best she and her beloved husband could was something devious. A plan set in motion for Wyatt to gain fame, glory, recognition, and greatness. The change had been so staggeringly quick that at first she felt like crying. She had cried in the privacy of her home that incidentally wasn't so private anymore. Friends and friendly faces morphed into something else. Acquaintances and those she barely knew or shared more than pleasantries suddenly turned into the most kind, welcoming, and attentive people around her. Truth be told, the added attention, the cordial, friendly inquiries about her health and her life, and the seemingly genuine gestures of kindness, when before had been rarely given, made her feel valued and respected. But after the first few days passed, the veil around her eyes was removed when she noticed that every topic of discussion, no matter how it started, always drifted to the same thing, her Wyatt. How old is he? How much land does he own? Does he own businesses? Does he own ships? How vast is his fortune? Would he be interested in knighting capable commoners? Is he engaged or betrothed? Those were the most common questions, though not by far the only ones. It made her sick to her stomach. She had seen it coming. She knew it would happen. She had warned Wham and Weskel about it. But she fell at first for those sweet lies spewed by opportunistic animals who suddenly she had far more value than before due to a twist of fate. What truly stung the most was that, aside from their closest neighbors and some of her truest friends, no one cared who Wyatt was as a person. The video of the carnage aboard the gallant venture only made them fear him. There was respect there, fake and molded by the sheer fact that her son was now a noble. But aside from what he could offer or what they could gain, there was no interest whatsoever. The worst were the majority of her students. The ladies coming from truly near-destitute lesser houses were relentless in their approaches. She'd received multiple letters, both from their parents or house heads and the overtly eager ladies themselves. She dared not open them, but she knew what they entailed aside from the veritable mountain of congratulatory letters she'd received over the past weeks. Fortunately, not everything was dark. Some nobles had come to them demanding a direct introduction to Wyatt and insinuating terrible consequences if they, as commoners, didn't comply with their orders. She and the rest of her family had remembered what Wyatt told them. That they belonged to him, to House Staples, and that they didn't have to obey the order of any noble who wasn't him or an Astor. It was mind-boggling to think about it, but that was their new reality. Not once in her life had she stood against an order given by a noble. Now she could better understand the subtle power that her oldest son now projected, even if he didn't wield it. Wirt ensured that no disrespect was given when rejecting the orders given to them, always polite but never bending before their empty threats. She reached her classroom, the door opening automatically as she approached, giving her ample space to walk inside. Setting the container on her desk, she peered inside to make sure every knitting material was accounted for, including needles for sewing and the datapad filled with simple cooking recipes for later. Winona did her best to avoid looking at her students. They had never been the most rowdy of young women, but they were far from being diligent. Now they were transformed far beyond the rest. They sat perfectly at attention, showcasing politeness, education, and poise. They didn't make a sound. There was no chatter or muttering gossip. They were perfect dolls set upon a display case for all to see. Their numbers had also quadrupled. It was so ironic in an almost cruel sense. The noble ladies now outnumbered the commoners present. Most of her regular students, who had been dutifully attending her lessons for months now, were relegated to the back of the classroom, set aside by the ladies who came swarming into her classroom. All dressed in the best, most fanciful, and awe-inspiring attire in their possession, with the singular goal of gaining her attention and, through her, Wyatt's. Such attitudes sickened her. There was no way to deny them, however. She wasn't a noble, and thus she wasn't a teacher. She was a simple educator in simple things, passing on her knowledge and expertise in fields useful for other women and ladies who were too poor or so far removed from importance in their houses' internal systems that a private education was a laughable concept, even for a noble. She had no power to remove any student unless something egregious happened, and even then, the final decision had to be made by her superiors. Resigned to her fate, she was ready to start her class even as she could see at least 24 envelopes resting on their desks. It's going to be a long, grueling day once again, isn't it? She asked herself, already knowing the answer. Volantis, Friar, Outskirts, Staples household? Wirt Staples poured his second beer into his favorite glass, filling it nearly to the brim before putting the empty can in the trash bin. He'd never liked beer straight from a can. Why? He didn't have an answer to it. He preferred it in a glass or a tankard. Not that he was a big drinker of alcohol, but he enjoyed it whenever the stress was too much for him to handle. And stress was most certainly mounting within him. Gulping down half of his glass in a single go, he barely had time to enjoy the fizzling sensation and the mild but pleasing touch of alcohol against his taste buds. The refreshing, calming sensation spread across his body directly from his throat, chest, and stomach. A sigh escaped from his lips as he reclined against the couch, rolling his neck as a crack echoed in the silent house. He remained still for several moments until he turned to his right. There, he found piles of letters neatly stacked and divided into 2 columns. The first were congratulatory letters from nobles, noble houses, and wealthy commoner families with ambitions to become nobles themselves alike. The second, and nearly as big, was entirely made out of a variety of proposal letters, ranging from engagements, betrothals, and other similar, proposals directed at his son Wyatt. He was never a violent man. He abhorred violence. But even he wanted nothing more than to take every damn letter to the backyard and burn them in a pyre. Consequences be damned. His son wasn't a piece of meat on display for them to poke and prod at. Wirt sighed again before nearly finishing the rest of his beer. He closed his eyes, trying to relax. It didn't last long, as the door to his home opened, revealing Weskull. "Dad?" Weskull asked, surprised to see his father home so early. "Welcome home, Weskull." Wirt greeted his son with a warm smile and the remnants of his glass before drinking it. Reaching to his side, he opened a third can, pouring its contents into his glass. "Did something happen? Another late shipment?" Weskull asked, setting his rifle down and hanging his hat. Wirt scoffed, depositing the empty can in the trash bin. "Something did happen," he replied before turning to face his middle child with a sad, tired smile. "You're looking at the newest evaluator for my entire floor," he said with an air of emptiness before putting the glass to his lips. Weskull frowned. "I thought you'd be happier about it." "How can I?" His eyes narrowed. "Lord Estegall made my promotion official this morning and gave me a full week of leave in order to celebrate and relax before taking over my new position. Of course, he asked me to give Lord Wyatt Staples his most sincere congratulations and that he extends a hand in friendship." He chuckled darkly. Sitting next to his father, Weskull could only match the somber aura that surrounded his father. Obeying nobles is only natural. We're little more than tools and workforce. But being used like this feels different, in a bad way. I've worked for years without complaint and eagerly. I like my job, and I always did my best, hoping to be recognized for my skills and work. Not to be taken into the entourage of a noble or with the expectation of becoming a noble myself. I just strive to provide for your mother, you, and your brothers better." He paused to take a short gulp from his glass. "I should be happy. My pay will increase and I won't have to work directly on the line anymore. I may even take on special assignments. But it feels hollow." Weskull sighed. "Call it for what it is, Dad. Blue bloods hardly care for us commoners unless they have something to gain. How many times were you sidelined for a promotion? But now that they could gain something from you, they suddenly see your worth?" He shook his head as his father took another swig from his glass. Warlow was right all along. Fucking blue bloods. I wouldn't go as far as to claim he's right about them and everything, but it sure is harder to say otherwise, Wirt replied with a smile, offering his son a can of beer, but Weskel refused it. I think I'm going to tell your mother to quit her job. Her pension be damned. She's being hounded the most out of us. Maybe you're right, Dad, Weskel said, then blinked as he realized something. Where's Wham? In his room, Wirt replied with a little chuckle. He didn't get a promotion, but he was given the same leave time I got. Family celebration, or so that was the excuse. I wouldn't be surprised if he's suddenly promoted into a junior assistant position despite his age. Taking another swig of beer, he let a burp of satisfaction escape his throat. How's Warlow doing? Did you see him on your way here? I did. He's painting, replied Weskel. Wyatt was right. Getting him high-quality supplies made it hard for him to deny them. Not that he'd dare say no to Mom to her face. Ha! You're right about that. Besides, he may hide it, but he likes Winona's cooking a bit too much, Wirt exclaimed with a wide smile. You should invite Whitmoose to dinner, son. True friends are rare these days. Maybe I will, Weskel replied, putting a hand on his father's shoulder. Our lives have and will continue to improve thanks to Wyatt, but I'm now regretting not taking a firmer stance against him adopting us into his house. Wirt nodded. I feel the same, Weskel. Yet you were right. Ultimately, it was Wyatt's decision to make in the end. The only one enjoying the attention is Wham. He retains high hopes that a lady will find genuine interest in him. When it comes to women, he lets his groin do the thinking, Weskel lamented. He's certainly more interested in starting a relationship than his older brothers, Wirt commented, causing his middle child to roll his eyes before finishing his glass. Volantis, Fryer, Delta 9 Spaceport. The transport shuttle landed with a groan of metal before its engines powered down. Technicians and mechanics approached slowly, ready to run necessary tests and quick evaluations before the cargo bay opened. From it, people walked out in an orderly fashion, with one among them carrying a large suitcase and a duffel bag. A pair of black sunglasses obscured his eyes, and his attire was evidently of a higher quality than the rest of the passengers. After signing in, he bought a hoverbike and left the spaceport. He stopped just as he was about to reach the outskirts of the city, marked on his enhanced reality map. Adjusting his sunglasses, he left the hoverbike parked with the ignition key on it for some lucky commoner to find and take as their own. He walked for a couple of hours until he made it to the outskirts and into the forest proper, easily evading the odd security camera or interfering with detection alarms for long enough to pass undetected. When he was deep enough into the forest, he stopped, opened his suitcase, revealing a dismantled rifle and a dozen other gadgets. He then took off his clothes, revealing a synth-skin body glove underneath it, molding to his body like a decimillimeter-thick second skin. Putting it all in a pile, he grabbed a small black marble from his suitcase and tossed it at the clothes. The marble exploded in a white light that a second later had reduced the clothes into naught but ash. Opening the duffel bag, he pulled another set of clothes with camouflage patterns that matched the vegetation around him. Then he closed it and picked up a small data pad from his suitcase. Landfall was made on the Flying Feather. The weather is regular and not surprising. Pleasant. My Azure planner was correct in everything, and I haven't stumbled on any problems. I'll enjoy my long vacations, said the agent before returning the datapad, only to then arm his Vanquisher battle rifle. Adjusting his glasses, the brown-haired agent closed his suitcase, shouldered his weapon, and began moving again until, near nightfall, he reached a desired location. Within minutes, he set up a perch in a tree, camouflaged and secure. Setting up his surveillance and other equipment, his ghost AI had already infiltrated Fryer's systems, ready to warn him if activity out of the ordinary occurred. Through his Vanquisher's scope, he saw the Staples household in time to see an elderly man and a young woman arrive at the porch, only to be greeted by Winona Staples. Setting his rifle aside, he started his long vigil. Dockyard Station Abolisher of Indignity, Ralza System, Caiston Territory. Commodore Eager Caiston sat in the captain's chair while two servants prepared his midday meal. A healthy serving of fine beef steak, accompanied by truffle sauce, grilled vegetables, and his favored whiskey. Taking the fork and knife, he cut a fat chunk of steak, driving it into his waiting maw. He chewed several times, enjoying the flavor of the perfectly cooked meat before swallowing. A servant moved a hand to wipe his mouth before he took a second bite dipped in the sauce. Around him, his officers worked their monotonous shifts without deviation or distractions. The abolisher of indignity had received the news, as everyone had, about the idiots following the pretender prince engaging his house's forces across the Finnegan borders. He had nothing to fear. His station was far away from the battle. 24 warships and a plethora of civilian-grade ships were docked at the station, delivering cargo, receiving repairs, or refueling. He swallowed again, flavor dancing in his taste buds approvingly. His dutiful servant wiped his mouth again. As he was about to taste the grilled vegetables, an awful, static noise made him drop his silverware as everyone around him covered their ears. Before he could demand what that noise was, a dark, bellowing, bone-chilling laughter was spat out from the speakers across the entire station. The laughter died mere seconds later, replaced by an almost ethereal voice. "Fury comes branding fire! You will be the first targets of its ire! Don't bother running, don't try to escape. We're set upon you, winged torment takes its shape. A scythe touches your neck, Casten Kerr. Surrender now, spare their lives, she'll be gone in a blur. Stand and fight, and death will come to reclaim your souls. We see you now, we know your roles. We come, let fury be deployed. The raven will send you all to the void." "Fuck," Commodore Igor Casten muttered, his appetite vanquished.